I have so many special memories in the Christmas season. So many. Because I was surrounded by a lot of people in a family that loved each other. And what a gift. You know, I understand not everybody has that. That is a gift. Maybe you grew up in a place that, that it wasn't as pleasant, and people weren't thinking of others, and they sure weren't thinking of Jesus. And as a result, many times that when everybody else seems to be happy, we can tend to feel like we're missing out, or we're getting the short end of the stick, or why is everybody else happy? And, there's just this wrestling thing. And what I would say is the chasing after the nostalgia or the fun or whatever, that's hollow. It is hollow. Chasing after the Savior brings hope and joy. And what's amazing is when you meet with Him, how He begins to show you special things that occurred even in times you didn't remember any. He begins to change your perspective on things to where you recognized Him in a moment. You recognized Him where He was there that maybe you hadn't noticed. I think people, sometimes they say, well, I didn't have God in my life and I wasn't around godly people, and that doesn't mean He wasn't there. He was there, and He was walking alongside you the whole way, whether you realized it or not, and saving you time and time again, and even in times where you thought it was excruciating, and it may have been, He was still there, and He was still helping you carry on and take that next step. And so this thing of the season, this is a good thing. This is like should be revival time in our country. They're trying to take Christmas out and whatever. I heard this one town, they lit their tree. They wouldn't say Christmas tree, because like everybody gets it. They know what that is. Whatever, you can try. They know what it is. It's like out there. We ought to be taking advantage of this moment, this season, not allowing disappointments or hurts or whatever from the past to scar us from what's going ahead. And that's kind of what we're talking about today. That's the focus. So in today's journey that we're going to take through Scripture, we're going to look at Matthew chapter 2. We're going to go 1 to 12. Okay, 1 through 12. And so we're gonna focus on the Magi today. That's what we're going to kind of look at and look at that lens. And I'm not going to get into, other years I've talked about the timing of when they came and so forth, and I'm not going to worry so much about that today. Today I just want to focus on these men that came, these wise men. And it actually doesn't say three. There's three gifts mentioned, so they tend to put three people in it, But however many there were, really doesn't matter. These Magi came, and we're going to see as we journey through this passage how they're overcome with joy. They're overcome with joy. I think everybody in here would go, okay, I'm all right. I'm good with that. I'm good if I'm overcome with joy. I haven't heard anybody go, no, not me, not doing it. And maybe there is somebody out there that's going to fight for not having joy. But I'm pretty confident in here, we're all okay with being overcome with joy. All right? Now, this overcome with joy is found in Galatians 5, 22 and 23, and it is what? Where does this come from? The Spirit. It is the fruit of the Spirit. So it's not a matter of, if we recreate enough special moments, we'll have joy. No, you might have a good time. You might have fun. That's all fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But it won't be producing joy. Joy comes from his Spirit. Okay? So that is something we can count on. That is something we don't produce. That is part of our faith, that he produces joy. And we have the opportunity to be overcome with joy. So we're going to take a look at these guys and how that took place for them. So Matthew 2, 1 through 12. And the first thing is the introduction of the Magi. All right, so in Matthew 2, 1, it says, after Jesus was born in Bethlehem in Judea, during the time of King Herod, Magi from the east came to Jerusalem. Now, it just says from the east. All right, it doesn't say how many, it doesn't say from this specific country or town or whatever. We don't know those specifics. It's Magi from the east. It's okay that scholars have deduced some things from this in where they probably came from and how this probably happened, but I think it's good to just know it's a probably. It doesn't say in Scripture, okay? So let's delve into that for just a second. The Magi, okay? First of all, you're talking about learned men. Typically, it was tied to men who studied the stars, all right? So there was some sort of astrology and so forth because, they're going to find the star. That's part of the deal. So that would be how we connected those dots. It says, this is from gotquestions.org. It's a good Bible place you can go ask questions. So one of the things it says, we know that the Magi were wise men from the east, most likely Persia. Okay, what was known as Persia. And all throughout the Old Testament, you see the kings of Persia and Babylon and so forth. It's a very prominent area, a lot of evil in that territory as well, quite frankly. They took over the Israelites multiple times. So all that's in Old Testament history. Most likely Persia or modern day, what is modern day Iran? Okay, so very much a place of importance still to this day. So this means the wise men traveled 800 to 900 miles to see the Christ child. 800 to 900 miles if they came from Persia. Okay, you got a map here with, the area that they would have come from and so forth. Now, think about this. 800 or 900 miles for me, I don't like doing that in a car. My back hurts, I'm older, I get like this catch and I have to, go to the chiropractor or get rolled out or, whatever stuff gets done wrong and, it's just uncomfortable and whatever. So there's all the discomforts we have. They weren't in a car. They were not on the freeway. They didn't have Buc-ee's. They didn't have it. That makes a trip almost worthwhile. You can stop and get some Buc-ee nuggets, and Jana gets an iced coffee. And, it's funny how everybody has like their thing, that they get at Buc-ee's. No, not these guys. They didn't have the clean bathroom, all that kind of stuff that we appreciate in modern day places. That's always, for Jana, it's like, I want a place with a clean bathroom. I don't want to, for me, I'm thinking, what do they have to eat and So we all have different things that we're looking for. They didn't have these. And yet, this move in them was so strong that they're willing to make this journey for something they're not even positive about. They're not even sure. They don't even know exactly who, where, what, who am I going to see, how am I going to find it, all these kind of things. And yet they're willing to take this journey. All right, so here's some other tidbits that scholars feel like they can say. Most likely the Magi knew of the writings of the prophet Daniel, because back in the day, Persia had conquered. You had Nebuchadnezzar and Darius and Xerxes and these kings, and Daniel wrote in what we have as Daniel many things about the end times, about the Messiah, etc. So more than likely, these writings were things that they would have come across, who in time past had been the chief court seers over the chief court seers in Persia. Daniel 9:24 and through 27 includes a prophecy which gives a timeline for the birth of the Messiah. So he literally, if you go back and read Daniel, he was over all those guys in that time period. Now, this is one of those things where, to me, you stop and you can see God's work and how multi-layered it is. You think about the devastation that occurred in Israel, that they had gotten so bad that God allowed them to be overthrown and torn away from their homes, and he was forced to, learn their language, and they were, it was a terrible thing. We read that like, oh yeah, it's no big deal. Really? Can you imagine if some other country came in and overthrew our country and tore apart your families and took your husband somewhere and the wife somewhere and the children somewhere else and placed them in different areas on purpose to tear you apart because it made it less likely for a rebellion? Okay? So you're in this new country. They're forcing you to take on their customs, their language, to make you accept their gods, etc. So all that stuff is going on, and you can read how Daniel, by God's strength and courage, had him stand up to the kings, how to Nebuchadnezzar, to the others, how Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, that's the story, the fiery furnace, and they wouldn't bow to the images and so forth. So all that's going on, all that history, and yet God used it for amazing things, did he not? Because here, all this time later, these magi have access to the writings of David, to the writings of Daniel, to the idea of the Messiah coming. And God moves in and through man's messes to do an amazing thing. And it spurs them. What about this? What is this we've found? We've got to find out about this. As I was thinking through this whole process, I was thinking about how our lives are like this. So these guys growing up in Persia would not be growing up expecting to go to Jerusalem. They would not grow up in Persia expecting to find the Messiah of the Jews. That's not what their intentions were. They would have grown up learning their information and trying to grow their mind and learn all the stuff about the stars and all, in order to better themselves and their country and so forth. But God's guiding them into places they had no idea they were going. He was in charge the whole time. And I think about our lives. I think about my schooling and early education in Oak Ridge, Tennessee, and then Knoxville, and then to East Texas, and then to Florida, and then back to Texas, and the journey, and the whole time, we're just plugging ahead, trying to get the next step, and trying to grow and learn and so forth, and some things you think, I'll never use this, I don't know what this is about, I don't know why I have to know this, whatever. Some things we're hungering, thinking that if we'll just learn this, we'll have the answer, and it's going to get us where we want, and our life, it takes so many crazy turns. The older you get, you're able to see those a little bit better. And you begin to go, oh man, God was doing this the whole way. And every little segment of things that were going on, he was weaving who he was creating in me to be prepared for what is going on now and what's to come. And he's doing that in all of us. I think that's fascinating. Because these are unlikely people to show up in Jerusalem. So they probably also would have been aware of the prophecy of Balaam. Now you can go back and look in Numbers chapter 22 and read about that. That one's a little bit different because a donkey ends up talking to Balaam and all that. It's pretty interesting. So the Magi have probably been aware of the prophecy of Balaam, who was from the town of Pethor on the Euphrates River near Persia. In Numbers 24:17, it speaks of him being in that area. Balaam's prophecy specifically mentions a star coming out of Jacob. Okay, there's all these things. We grew up with the Bible. We don't know half this stuff. They're digging. They're searching. And they're finding these things, and they're going, oh, wait a minute. There's there's a connection here, and this goes to that, and that goes to this. And God's working them to a certain place and end that's going to bring glory to him. And we're still reading about it over 2,000 years ago from then. All right, so that's the Magi. All right, so let's go back and let's read through again verse 1 and into 2. It says, after Jesus was born in Bethlehem in Judea, during the time of King Herod, Magi from the east came to Jerusalem, and they asked, as they show up in Jerusalem, they've been following this star, but they don't know exactly where they're supposed to go. They ask, where is the one who has been born King of the Jews? We saw his star when it rose and have come to worship him. Now, isn't it crazy? The people that he came to save, they're like, huh? You came to do what? Who was born? What happened? Isn't that amazing? They're too busy with themselves. They're too busy with what's going on in their lives to have noticed. God will move in and through those whose hearts are prepared to see and hear. And to those who are too full of ourselves, we will miss things that are right in front of us. I can't help but think of in Matthew 7 and 8, and it talks about those who seek, find. Those who seek. Seeking, that heart of a seeker, that is a good thing. That is a good thing. When you're raising your children, you may have a seeker on your hands, and you're going, hey, get out of there. Pow! Which is all good, and you got to do some of that. But it's good to foster that seeking. That is a great trait. When they're hungry to learn and desiring, because we just got to get that thing pointed in the right direction. Because those who seek, they find. There may be somebody in your life that you're trying and praying and asking God to how to share with them, how to witness to them. Maybe they're in a completely different faith or completely different, whatever, their mindset, but they're seeking. Okay, and maybe you may be going, well, they're not really seeking. Well, they're seeking something. They just are seeking something that's not good or helpful. And so all that our prayers need to change to is, Lord, help them seek you. They just don't know what it is they need. So our prayers can change, and we begin to see them different. Oh, no, they've got in them, there's all kinds of raw material there. You know why? God made them in his image. Those who seek find. So here are these guys in Persia who are seeking truth. They're seeking knowledge. And God begins to lead them to know him better. So we go back to chapter 2, verse 3. It says, when King Herod heard this, he was disturbed. And all of Jerusalem with him. Okay, we've kind of just hit on this, that they weren't like waiting with expectation. This is like getting blindsided. Wait a minute, what? For King Herod, it was a threat to his kingdom. He was not a godly man. He was in the Jewish lineage, but he was not a godly man. He was in things for Herod. That's what he wanted. And he was going to attempt to get rid of any and everyone who was going to attempt to take his throne, to challenge his power. And then you've got those in Jerusalem. You've got the scribes and the Pharisees and the teachers of the law and whatever. The people that you would think would be doing what the Magi are doing. But guess what? They were busy taking care of their situations. They like their positions of authority. They like their place. And wait a minute. You start bringing Jesus into here, it starts messing stuff up. He starts messing with what we got going. You go into a school or you go into your workplace and you start talking about Jesus and everybody starts wilting, you know, and they're like, wait a minute, you can't talk about him. You can talk about any and every deity or pseudo-deity that's out there, and nobody cares. You know, on our TV thing, you know, we'll be watching, and I don't want to give advertisements, but in the whoever is our streaming group, that, you know, in between a show, every now and then they'll pop up this scene of nature, and there's a bird in the water or whatever, and it says down at the bottom, enjoy the Zen. I'm like, enjoy the Zen? Can you imagine if they put up there, enjoy God's creation? Oh, buddy, that'd mess with everybody, wouldn't it? They would be disturbed. Okay? They would be, enjoy what Jesus created. Oh, buddy, they'd be protesting, and, you know, they'd probably have them off by the end of the day. You know, it disturbed things because he disturbs our little make-believe world. He's always messing with mine. Let's quit acting like it's somebody else. You know, I try and get everything the way I want it, and my day and my routine, and, you know, and when he presents things into my day that mess with me, I get all ticked off. Got a flat tire, or, you know, a troublesome parent, or, you know, whatever, you know. Jana asked if we can go to such and such, and I didn't want to. I wanted to watch the game tonight, or, you know, whatever. It messes with us. Why? Because guess who's in charge? Me. And I try and build these little days, these, you know, every day I'm trying to build it around what I want to do. And that's what's going on here. And as a result, the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords had shown up on this earth, and they had no idea. In their town, in their area. And they didn't even know. And then when they're told, instead of going, what? Let's go. They're all like, oh, now, wait a minute. What do you mean, King of the Jews? Wait a minute. It disturbed them. God messes with us on purpose. On purpose. We need messing with. Take a look at Drumbeat of Love by Dr. Lloyd Ogilvie. Great book. Great book. And in it he says, we are called to be upsetters. Okay? When you type that in, it like puts red lines under it, because I think he bought, you know, he took license here. But we are called to be upsetters, people who turn the whole world upside down. To live Christ, to share Christ, help people to know him, and shape our whole lifestyle around him. That's our only purpose. Okay, I want to stop there for a minute. And I want us to let that sink in. To live Christ, to share Christ, to help people know him, and shape our whole lifestyle around him. That's our only purpose. That's convicting. That's convicting. Lord, help me go there. Help me to make my whole life around that, right there. All the other stuff will burn up. Every bit of it. You know, I have a friend who is on the doorstep to eternity. And he's a good bit younger than I am. And he is a new Christian, as in the last few years. Last year or so. And what has been amazing is watching him, like in the last couple of months, as he gets closer and closer and closer. And his dad, I went to see him yesterday, and his dad was telling me that, you know, when family members come over, when friends come to see him at the hospital or whatever, you know what he's saying? Are you saved? Are you saved? Are you saved? Are you saved? Because he's close. He's closer to there than he is here. And he knows what matters. He senses it. Mortality is staring him in the face. And as it stares him in the face, he's like, hey guys, I'm fixing to take this step right here. Are you ready? It's amazing how, again, the heart has to be ready. But as that heart gets right, we begin to realize, oh my goodness, it's not all about all this other stuff. It's about, are we right with him? And that's all that matters. He goes on. He says, the world is already upside down in confusion and desperation without him. When he turns our own world right side up, he then calls us to do the same with the world around us. The upsetting is not running around making people mad. That's not the goal. Okay? Sometimes Christians, they get that confused and they think that they're just to be agitators. We're not to be agitators. We're to be his servants. That will cause enough agitation. You don't have to add to that. Okay? Anything that we add to it, we have to ask forgiveness for, quite frankly. No, it's truth. Truth. Jesus. And knowing him, it upsets things. It upsets people. It stirs things up. And there's times, you'll just be sweating bullets and clammy, and you're like, oh, I don't want to have to say this. And he goes, yeah, but you're going to. I'm calling you to. And you just got to jump in there and go. You just got to do it. You just got to do it. And trust him. Regardless of the reaction, just trust him. If he is creating the agitation, that's between them and him. God's calling us to be willing to seek him. That's what these magi did. They sought him. And when they sought him and had this hunger to know who he was and where he was, and they had to meet him, well, it starts upsetting other people. You can be called a radical or, whatever else. Boy, you're just kind of stepping over the line here or whatever. Stay unfazed. Go find him. Go find him. So we continue on verses 4 through 6. So when he had called together all the people's chief priests and teachers of the law. Okay, so it upsets him. It's upsetting the people hearing it. So he calls in the chief priests and the teachers. So here they all come gathered, and he asks them, where is the Messiah supposed to be born? He has no idea. Now he's Jewish. He has no idea. Where is the Messiah supposed to be born? And here's what they reply. In Bethlehem, in Judea. Where was Jesus born? In Bethlehem, in Judea. They knew. They already knew. They should have had sentries out there watching for him. They didn't know when. Now, we can say that about them. That's like we know Jesus is coming back, but how hard are we looking for that? Oh, yeah, I know. But when we just get caught up in my day, oh, yeah. Yeah, he's coming back. Oh, can't wait. They're probably like, we can't wait for the Messiah. Completely oblivious to the fact he's there. When God had written it down. In Bethlehem, in Judea, they replied, for this is what the prophet has written. But you, Bethlehem, in the land of Judah, are by no means least among the rulers of Judah. For out of you will come a ruler who will shepherd my people Israel. That's in Micah. They knew chapter and verse. They knew exactly where he was coming. what's amazing is we know truth when we hear it. You know why? I mentioned it a second ago. We're made in his image. We're made in his image. Genesis 1:26, it says, then God said, let us make mankind in our image, in our likeness. We are made in his image. And so when we hear truth, it rings true in us. Now we can fight it. We can run from it. Doesn't change truth. Can be painful for us and everybody around us when we run and try and do it our own way. Doesn't change truth. But we know down in us because we're made in his image. We don't get to say, oh, I don't know. I didn't know. Romans 1:19-20 says, since what can be known about God is plain to them. God has made it plain. God has made it plain to them. That's mankind. For since the creation of the world, God's invisible qualities, his eternal power and divine nature, have been clearly seen, being understood from what has been made, so that people are without excuse. We don't get to go, well, I didn't know. Oh, yeah, you did. First of all, he made you. He made you. What you are has been knit together by him. He knows you better than you know you. And secondly, he, as we look out the windows and the doors and we look at his creation, he put himself in all that. We have to work to not see him. A veil covers our eyes as we reject him. Now, as we seek, as we mentioned earlier, then we find. And we begin to realize that the beauty of a sunrise is him. The beauty of a sunset is him. The beauty and the enjoyment of sitting on the beach and watching and listening to the waves crash in on the beach, it's him. That's what you're enjoying, whether you realize it or not. Now, you're enjoying him in what he created. He did that for us and for our pleasure. But if you miss him, you got nothing. You got nothing. There's nothing long-lasting about that. There's no joy. There is no joy. You might be happy in the moment that you got to be at the beach. But you ever gone on a vacation, from work, and by Wednesday, you're leaving on Saturday, and by Wednesday, you're miserable because you can't think of anything but leaving on Saturday. I've done that, Oh my gosh, we got to leave in 3 days. How about just stop and enjoy him? And when we do, it's amazing how he begins to settle us. And we recognize, oh, he's here. And it's also amazing how you can be right there slaving away at work going, oh, he's here. He's there too. And there's tons of things for us to appreciate and enjoy that are his, like the people around you. Okay, so let's go back to 7 and 8. So Herod, the chief priests and the teachers of the law, they're like, he's going to be born in Bethlehem in Judea. So Herod calls the Magi secretly, pulls them aside, and finds out from them the exact time the star had appeared. So when exactly did you see this thing? And he sent them to Bethlehem, and he said, go and search carefully for the child. As soon as you find him, report to me that I too may go and worship him. Now, he's lying. Okay? They don't know. They don't know. He's just telling them, yeah, I want to go worship him too. You probably would think they'd be like, well, sure he wants to worship him. Probably the only wonder they had was, why is he not coming with us? But they're excited about going and finding the Messiah. And, oh, Herod because of the darkness in his heart, because of he's trying to protect his domain and what he's got going for him. He's trying to do that. He has now opened himself up to something way bigger, to evil that is beyond anything we can even imagine. You go and you look, there's a cosmic battle that is going on because the enemy, Satan, he doesn't really have a clue what God's up to, but he knows he's up to something. And he's going to try with all his might to get rid of it. You look in Revelation chapter 12, and it goes 1 through, we're going to go 1 through 9. It says, a great sign appeared in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun, with the moon under her feet, and a crown of 12 stars on her head. She was pregnant and cried out in pain as she was about to give birth. And then another sign appeared in heaven. An enormous red dragon with 7 heads and 10 horns and 7 crowns on its heads, and its tail swept a third of the stars out of the sky and flung them to the earth. And the dragon stood in front of the woman who was about to give birth so that it might devour the child the moment he was born. The enemy is out to kill, steal, and destroy. There is a cosmic battle going on here. Now, he's going to attempt to move through Herod. We know later. He goes and kills all the males 2 and under. Herod, he's so focused on himself, he becomes a part of something way bigger that's going to transform all of history, all of mankind, your future and mine, those people's futures, everything, our eternity. This is a big deal. Now, the Magi, they don't know. They don't know all that's going on. They just seen the star. They're seeking. They're seeking. Herod, he doesn't know that's going on. He's just worried about losing his authority. He's worried people might start following this new king of the Jews. And he's got to protect his position. There's so much more going on than they understand. It goes on. It says she gave birth to a son, a male child, who will rule all the nations with an iron scepter. You see, the enemy, he knows Isaiah. He knows those verses. And he's trying to end it before it ever gets started. And her child was snatched up to God and to his throne, and the woman fled to the wilderness to a place prepared for her by God, where she might be taken care of for 1,260 days. The whole point of what I'm saying is there's so much more going on. There's so much more going on in your life and my life. God has allowed us to be a part of this cosmic battle. Cosmic is not, that term doesn't go with cartoon. It doesn't go with make-believe. It doesn't go with, Hulk and all those guys. Marvel, thank you, appreciate it. We're not talking about that stuff. We're talking about a real war. A real war in the heavenlies. And you have a role. You do. And I have a role. Everyone he made has a role to advance his kingdom. The Magi are lining up with that role. Even though it really, you wouldn't have thought it was going to play out like that for them. And yet, because they're seeking, God's going, come on, I'm going to show you. And the people who you would have thought were the most likely to get it, they're too blind. And then you have people like Herod, who because of their selfishness are allowing the enemy to be working in and through them to prevent what God's wanting, if that could happen, which it won't. His will take place. But it matters for you and I what we do. It says, then a war broke out in heaven. It's real. I'm not just saying this because it's fun to talk about spiritual warfare, whatever. No, there's a war that is going on here. A war broke out in heaven, and Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon and his angels fought back, that he was not strong enough, and they lost their place in heaven, and the great dragon was hurled down, that ancient serpent called the devil or Satan, who leads the whole world astray. He was hurled to the earth, and his angels with him. You see, that's a big deal. And us, we get up on Monday and go, oh, I've got to go to 3 Christmas parties. Oh, this week is so hard. I'm not going to be able to watch my favorite television show. And they'll probably have fruitcake, and I don't really like fruitcake. And I couldn't get such and such on Amazon, so I'm going to have to go into a store and buy something where other people are. I have to run into them. There's all these things that we gripe about, and we're letting our vision get so about us that we're missing what it's all about. That heart that is seeking him and will not be denied. Whether it was 800 or 900 miles on the back of a camel, whether it was comfortable or not, whether the people there would accept us when we got there. Can you imagine? I would think the Persians would think, what are they going to think when we get there? Are they going to like us? And we don't have a real good history with them. They set all that aside. And they went because the prize was worth it. It was worth it. So we go back to verse 9. It says, after they had heard the king, they went on their way, and the star they had seen, when it rose, went ahead of them until it stopped over the place where the child was. Okay, now we look at that and we go, exactly. If God would just give a star that I can follow, I'd do it. By gosh, if he'll just put a star over the Christmas party I'm supposed to go to, I'll go to that one. Or the store, all right, I'll go there, or, whatever. And we use that like as a cop-out, like, well, why did he do that when he doesn't do that now? Well, first of all, he can do whatever he wants. But no, he took it up so much further for you and I. We don't have to see a star that came one time in history. No, we are given his Spirit to live in us. You see, the thing that guided them, the Holy Spirit was guiding them by a star. Well, he, if you have Jesus, lives in you. What was that thing we looked at a couple of slides ago? No excuses. Quit making excuses. We got to quit making excuses. Well, if he would just give me a star, if he'd ride on a cloud, I don't know what to do. His Spirit lives in you. He lives in us. Jesus said in John 16:13, but when he, the Spirit of truth, comes, he will guide you. He will guide you. You can know him. You will know his prompting and his leading. He will guide you into all truth. He will not speak on his own. He will speak only what he hears. He will tell you what is yet to come. We have so many advantages over the Magi. It's embarrassing. Embarrassing. And we're over here going, well, we don't have a star to look at. Really? Here's the deal. We're too busy watching our TV shows and doing whatever it is we want to do, or playing on our phone, or whatever it is that we do, rather than learning that still small voice and when he speaks and trusting him even when we mess up. Okay, well, I felt like he said this and I did that. Boy, that didn't go so well. Okay, how about keep moving? How about keep growing? That's on us, not on him. He will grow us up in that. Did you get everything your parents told you when you were little? I mean, as in, did you understand it all? No, you didn't. You didn't. You know, I've told you about the guy I coached years ago. I'll never forget it my whole life. You know, he's a little junior high wide receiver named Angel. How about that? So he's out there, and he's got his wrong foot up. You know, he's supposed to have his right foot up there, and he's got his left foot up because we always put the inside foot up because of our routes and timing and all that. So he's out there, and he's got his hands up, and I go, I've got the ball. I'm like, put your right foot up. And he's just standing there looking at me. I said, put your right foot up, your right foot. Put it up. And he goes, I was like, that's awesome. That is stinking awesome. I said, did everybody see what Angel just did? He did exactly what I told him. That's awesome, Angel. Now, take this foot and put it here and do that one there. But you know what? That joker was trying. I didn't go, you dummy. What are you doing? No, I'm like, that's awesome. He didn't understand. He's listening to me. He's trying to do what he said, what I'm wanting. He's not sure how to do it, but okay, I don't know how this is going to help. I can't run like this, but you told me to do it, so I'm doing it. Well, that's God in us. And we're down here, and he's saying, do this. And we're like, you know, and he goes, I like it. Okay. Okay. Now let me coach you up a little more. Okay. Let me help you. And what we do is, oh, well, I missed that and I got it wrong. I'm never listening again. He doesn't really talk to us. That's what we do. That's not what his word says. His word says those who seek find. It's not based on my ability. It's grounded in truth. His truth, which doesn't change. Doesn't mean I won't ever make a mistake. I will. I have. And I will. But it's okay. I'm willing to because I want to know him better. You really, here's the deal. Let's just cut to it. It's cowardice. What if I fail? What if I don't do it? What if it doesn't work? What if it, whatever? It's called being a coward. Now, none of us want to admit to that. God doesn't like cowards. He doesn't like, let me say that wrong. He doesn't like cowardice. It's not a good trait. It's not of him. He's bold. He's truth. He is I am. There's no cowardice in that. And as we trust that, okay, maybe I'll mess up along the way. Maybe I won't get it all the way. Okay, but I trust him. And he's big enough to get me there. Okay, let's go. Let's go. Let the Holy Spirit guide your lives. All right, verse 10. Here we are to our verse of the day. When they saw the star, they were overjoyed. The star had stopped right there over this place. They had arrived. Oh my gosh, this is it. This is what we've been studying for our whole lives. It's all starting to make sense now. All those early days of rote memorization of where the stars are and all the stuff in their background, educational background, all the lessons we had to learn, all the missing it and not being right and doing this, and all the journey, the 800 to 900 miles of trying to get here. It's all worth it because we see him. Do you think they understood the magnitude of what they saw? No way. You know, I bet they got there and they're going, man, a baby. I wonder what this baby's going to be like. They had no idea what was going to take place in his life. No idea. They had no idea his life was going to end in this world on a cross that would save all of mankind. Now, in their minds, they would have thought he would have been king and ruled, and that he would fix things for the Jews. That's how the Jews thought. But you know what? He isn't bound by what we think. He's so much more. And he takes us right where we are, in wherever it is that we are in our understanding, and he loves us, and he fills us with joy. And we overflow with joy because of who he is. And that we get to know him more. He's allowing us to come closer to him. That's what this Christmas is about. It's not about what presents we get. I mean, I think we're all good on that. You know, when you get older, dang, we have so much. I'm like, I don't know what else I ought to ask for. You know, I mean, I don't even need to. It's not about stuff. Now, when you're a kid, you're like, well, you know, there's a few things on my list, you know, which is okay too. I think he enjoys that. But it's him. One of the things that we find in Christmases as we reflect is maybe you got that thing you love so much and you enjoyed it so much, and then, you know, in a couple of months, you're not even using it anymore. Because it can't satisfy. It can't do it. Our little kids, you know, you give them a present and they play with a bag the whole time. They don't even care about the toy. They play with the thing it came in, you know. There's so much more. This is the secret to life right here. This is it. This scene that we see, these men, these magi, when they come upon him, it's us when we find Jesus. Oh my goodness. It all begins to make sense now. Now, what is amazing about this is it's not anticlimactic afterward. No, it just gets better and better and better. And that meeting him is what propels us forward. That should be from the time you accept Jesus into your heart to the time you take your last breath. We got to be on fire, moving closer and closer with excitement and understanding what it really is about. What it really is about. And so it's not about, as we walk around at Christmas going, okay, should I say this or should I do this? Let go of all that. It's not a matter of obligation. It's just be who he tells you to be. It's amazing how natural it comes when you just relax and let him talk to you. And you listen to him and he goes, go do that. And you go, okay. You know, yesterday I had a scenario that it was amazing. It was a very small thing, but it was a blessing. So I'm at the hospital visiting this friend, and I go and I'm getting in my car and I'm talking to Jana and telling her I'm fixing to go and whatever. And this, I hate saying elderly, but it was a lady who was more experienced in life, chronologically. She stops her SUV almost like right in front of me, about 10 feet, and I'm thinking, I wonder what she's doing. I'm fixing to pull out, so I'm talking to Jana, and I see her get out of the vehicle, and she starts walking towards me, and I said, hang on a second. I'm like, ma'am, can I help you? And she goes, I'm sorry, I can't figure out how to get out of this parking lot. You know, one of those deals, which I'm with her. Half the time, you know, it's got exit and thing, whatever, and you think you're exiting, and you're going back up, and all that kind of stuff. I said, I understand. I got you. And I started to explain it. I said, I tell you what, hop back in your car and I'll lead you out of here. And she, you know, was like, oh, thank you so much. So anyway, we get in and I drive my way around and she follows and she's waving, you know, getting out. And I think, thanks God for letting me have that opportunity. Now, that, in the grand scheme of life, that was not a huge deal. But I felt him take care of her. That's it. And he just brings those things to us if we're paying attention. Or he can show up in our town and we don't even know he's there. Wait a minute, what? The Messiah is here? And we don't even know it? Because we're too focused on us. Now, I can't say I was like in some spiritual mode right there. She parked right in front of me. I mean, it wasn't like, I'm not trying to pat myself on the back. He brought it to me. Hey, Alan, don't miss this softball here I'm tossing you, you know. But I experienced him and him loving her. And I got to be a part. What a blessing. We want to live that way every day. God, show me. Show me. Let me have my eyes open. Let me see who's hurting, who has a need, who needs, I don't know, a smile. Hey, that's it. I don't know. Whatever. Invest him into others. When they saw the star, they're overjoyed. We have something. We have the meaning of life in us. And we walk around like this. You know. Oh, don't make eye contact. Lord, help us. So when they did that, it's amazing how it affects them. They can't help but be affected. And it says, on coming to the house, they saw the child with his mother Mary, and they bowed down, and they worshiped him. And then they opened their treasures, and they presented him with gifts of gold and frankincense and myrrh. Okay, now, what we do, well, let's go back. We'll get to the gifts here in a second. So first of all, how did they posture themselves? They bowed. Okay? There's one, you can posture yourself physically, but you can posture yourself in your heart too. And my heart has to bow to him. He must become more, I must become less. We posture below. We recognize we're in the presence of the Almighty, of Jesus, the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords. And when we bow, we can't help but be the same selfish person. We can't be that. Not when we recognize we're in his presence. It changes our countenance. It changes our demeanor. It changes our goals on the day. It changes our focus on how we handle things. They bowed and they worshiped him. They recognized who he is, and they began to praise him and honor him to the best of their ability. They didn't even understand in fullness who he was, but they're worshiping him from their hearts because God's stirring. When you bow and I bow before him, it's amazing how God will grow us in our understanding of whose presence we're in. You know, yesterday as I was in that room with my friend, yesterday he couldn't talk. He had come to that place, and his dad was sitting there. And for those of you who have been in a room where they're close, I mean, you feel the presence of God. Whew. And it's humbling. Man, it's humbling. It stirs in you. And I've shared before that picture back there over those doors where it's like I have that visual in those moments where it's like we're just that close to eternity. And he's there, about to usher someone into eternity. That's a big deal. And in those moments, boy, you bow. You bow. And you get things in order in your mind. And you begin to remember, Lord, oh Lord, please help me not forget. Help me remember what this is like. on Monday. And they opened their treasures and they presented him with gifts. And, we look at gold and frankincense and myrrh and go, yeah, if I had some myrrh, I'd give him some, or frankincense. I'd give him some frankincense, What is it he's asking of you? What is it he's asking of you? I always hated it when I was a kid and my mom would say, what's God saying to you? What gift are you going to give him? And I'd be like, oh my gosh, now I got to find out. I'm being honest. I'm like, that's heavy. Whew. I got to listen. I wish you hadn't brought that up. She was good at doing that. Still is, actually. What gift is he asking you to give him? I promise, he gets personal. Ooh. He doesn't need gold. He doesn't need frankincense. He doesn't need myrrh. He wants your heart. But then there are those things that we're clinging on to and we're wrestling and tend, for whatever reason, to not give him. And he goes, that's what I want right there. I want that. Sometimes it's pain. Sometimes it's a memory. It's we want to hold on to the right to be mad at someone, and we don't forgive them. And God knows that's inhibiting us from being healed and walking in freedom, and more of his light comes in, which affects other people and sets that other person free. There's so many riches involved in that one thing, and we're down here holding on and we're going, but they don't deserve it. And he's going, you're going to hurt yourself because they don't deserve it? You're going to disobey me? I thought you loved me. Whew. So sorry, I'm putting it on you. Ask him what he's asking you for this Christmas. And then bow and offer it to him. There's a posturing before him that is important. When I realize who he is, I can't help but worship. I can't help but do it. There'll be a day when every knee bows and every tongue confesses, whether they want to or not. I want to be in the group that's been practicing. We come to the close, verse 12. It says, and having been warned in a dream not to go back to Herod, they returned to their country by another route. They're oblivious. They don't know. But guess what? God does. And he's controlling this whole thing. They don't know about the cosmic battle and what all's happening. They don't know. It doesn't matter that they don't know. It doesn't matter that we don't know. We can know what he sees fit to tell us. And in the meantime, we can trust him that he's going to guide us. He said, my spirit will guide you into all truth. He showed them in a dream. That's how he showed them. He may give it to you in another way. We can trust him with how he guides you. Isaiah 30:21 says, whether you turn to the right or to the left, your ears will hear a voice behind you saying, this is the way, walk in it. Guess who that is? That's his Holy Spirit. God has given us something way better than a star that we are to look at. He's given us something way better than a burning bush that he let Moses go and talk to. We think, oh, God, that would have been so amazing. Yeah, I'm not saying it isn't amazing. But what's more amazing is that he put his spirit in me and in you. And you have 24-hour access, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, the rest of your life. It's just, are we willing to listen? This is the way. Walk in it. When you aren't sure and you don't know which way to go, say, Lord, your word says in Isaiah 30:21 that we will hear a voice that says, this is the way, walk in it. I need to hear that one. I need to hear that voice. Now you're standing in his word and you're trusting him. And yeah, you may be standing like this, you know, but he'll get you there. He'll get me there. We have an assurance that he is the one that provides the joy. When these magi showed up and they experienced him, they were overwhelmed with joy. They were exceedingly joyful. That's how we are to be. And if we're not, it's because we're looking at something else. We're not recognizing he's here. He's here in this situation, in this moment. Doesn't say you will be exceedingly happy. Doesn't say that. That goes and comes. It says we'll have exceedingly great joy. That's of him. Let's close in prayer. Father, I thank you for the way you clarify for us what it is that we need to be seeking. The way you instruct us and teach us in your word and confirm it over and over and over. The way you show us in the creation that you created. The way you love us in a personal relationship. That we can know your son Jesus and we can have joy unspeakable and full of glory. We can experience that. And Lord, I pray that in this season that we don't get our eyes off. We don't focus on stuff and duties and obligations and expectations on people that they could never live up to. Help us to focus on your son Jesus and to have a heart for you. Help us to be seekers, knowing that we will find because you have said so. Help us to trust your spirit that is in us that says this is the way, walk in it. And that you'll grow us up in that ability to hear what you're telling us to do. Father, we thank you for Christmas, and we pray that this Christmas we bless you more than any other time of our life. Show us how to do that. Thank you for this body of believers. In Jesus' name.